watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, happy Monday. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. This is episode number 97, and I am the host, Mandy Bryce. If this is your first time listening to the Bold Moves podcast, I'm excited for you to hear some exciting stories of people who have stepped outside of their comfort zones and hopefully closer to their dreams. That is definitely the case for our two guests this week. Yes, that's right. This is an interview with a couple instead of an individual for the first time, so that's super exciting. But it's Zack and Jen McCullock, who right after they got married decided to tackle their debt by moving into a camper together and became so passionate about their own debt and helping people with it that they decided to make a business out of helping others. They also do some really interesting things in the service field for different populations individually, and their story is absolutely extremely inspiring. So stay tuned so you can hear all about the story and get some great financial tips from Zack and Jen McCullock. All right, everyone, welcome to Bold Moves with Mandy Bryce. I am with Zack and Jen McCullock, who is the first husband-wife team that I've had the pleasure of having on the podcast. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear your story. Of course, you know it's called Bold Moves. So obviously at some point you've done something to step outside of your comfort zone, probably a few things. So I'm wondering, what is your story?
Yeah, so we like to think that bold moves are pretty exciting in life, and without them, life would be sort of boring. And
Absolutely.
So we got married in 2014, and just like most people, you do the typical wedding, the honeymoon, and when we came home, we really decided we wanted to take our finances more seriously.
Okay.
And when we started sort of looking at all of our debts that we owed, you could say, we were really overwhelmed. And we had over $50,000 worth of debt, and we were just sort of stuck, and we didn't really know, where to go, what to do. And, neither one of us took any like personal finance classes, in high school or college. And so we just kind of got passionate about personal finance, and that led us to have a conversation on a date night one night. And we were actually at one of our favorite bookstores, and we were sitting down looking through books, and we saw a book about tiny homes. And the tiny home movement's a pretty big thing. And Jenna actually had mentioned like, hey, we should totally, live in a tiny home. But at the time, we didn't want to spend $40,000 to buy a tiny home.
Right.
They're pretty expensive. And so
almost double your debt.
yeah, exactly. And we had considered building a tiny home. My brother built a small house. It's not a tiny home, but it's kind of similar, but it was still a lot of money to build your own. And so one of the things that Jenna brought up was living in a camper. And so that's kind of where the whole story started for us and the bold moves for us. So we ended up living in a camper that we bought on Craigslist for $4,000. We spent a couple weeks renovating it, fixing it up, and, modernizing it, making it a home. And then we lived in that for 11 months and just kind of minimized our life and sold a lot of our belongings, and with the goal of becoming, to be debt free.
Very cool. So a few things. First of all, I think it's a shame that at least in the United States, personal finance isn't covered at any point. I mean, so many people make jokes about like, oh, I used so much algebra today, or, how a lot of what we learn in high school and even a lot of times in college isn't really applicable to daily life as an adult. So that's such an important life skill. So it's so cool that you brought it up, because I think that that's a big thing. But what I'm really interested in, first of all, is how you became passionate about personal finance, because I would love to learn how to become passionate about it, because primarily I'm just like, oh, I like don't even want to look at it. I'm probably not in the minority there. So let me know a little bit about that transformation.
I think that really our passion for it started when we started looking at numbers and we were able to have just normal conversation without arguing about finances. And so I think the biggest passion that came from that was when we learned to make sacrifices, like make little sacrifices here and there to, in the long run, better our future. So after we paid off our debt, that's really when we started to be really pumped about finances. I mean, obviously we had to have some motivation before, but I would honestly say after we paid it off, we became even more excited about finances. So
that's awesome. How would you recommend getting from the point? Because I feel like part of the goal for many people to become passionate or even just pay more attention to their personal finances would be to become debt free. So what would you recommend for something to get people initially started so that they can get to that big win where then I imagine, you know, just general wealth acquisition and, you know, the more fun stuff probably really begins?
exactly.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think a lot of people, just like you and just like we were for a long time, you know, to look at money and it really stresses you out, or it really stresses people out. So you just tend to like sweep it under the rug, kind of kick the ice under the fridge thing instead of pick it up and put it in the sink. Because, you know, money is the number one. People get divorces and relationships don't work out. You know, people, like 50% of people have trouble sleeping at night because they worry about money. And there's just all these reasons, and debt, you know, the student loan debt crisis. And, you know, coming out of college as a millennial, we like got the financial crisis, but I mean, because we were kind of grown up when we were in college, but I couldn't really say that I was paying that much attention.
Sure.
And so we kind of came out into the economy when, you know, I still would say it's not fully recovered yet, but we came out at a very hard time. And so we've just like always known this environment that money has this ability to just be very harmful to people's lives. You know, you heard of people losing their pensions and losing their retirement, or at least a significant amount of it. And so I think for millennials, I think a lot of millennials and just young people in general, I don't know the audience of, you know, this podcast, but I think there's some common things with money that everyone struggles with. And so I would say the first recommendation that I would have is just to have an honest conversation. If you're married, or maybe you have a partner, or even if you're single, sit down with a friend and try and find somebody that you can talk to about it, and that you can trust, obviously. And for us, that, you know, again, we fought about money when we first got married, and we just had to practice and, you know, just say, hey, we're going to spend an hour a week talking about it, and just writing all of our bills down. And like, when do they do? Who likes to pay the bills? Who likes to plan? And, you know, saying, hey, it's okay if she does that, and it's okay if I do this. We don't have to follow like the traditional gender roles that society gives us in finances. And so, you know, we found a role that we both enjoyed, and, you know, it literally just takes time. And so we talk a lot about budgeting together as a couple is really important. And, you know, just being honest and just knowing it's going to be hard, and you have to work at it just like any other goal in your life. You know, whether it's weight loss or eating healthy or, you know, starting a business. I mean, these are all huge life things. And so I think sometimes it's easy to say, oh, well, I'm not good at that because, you know, it didn't work out for me. I tried it a couple times, but literally we had to work at just understanding money together. And so I would say just understanding like the basics, and being educated that you can change your situation, even if you don't make a lot of money.
Sure.
And so you don't have to live in a camper like we did, but I think everyone can find ways to make some sacrifices. And so, yeah, that's probably a lot, but those I think that's a good introduction just to how like we started to handle our money, and as time goes on, things build on themselves. And so we're still learning though. I mean, we're still figuring things out. And like you said, there's different stages. Now that we're debt free, we get to do more fun things like saving and investing and finding, new ways to have fun with it. So
That's awesome. So just to go to like back to some like baseline logistic kind of things, what do each of you do for work? And I'd like to know just a little more about the whole living in a camper situation and how that's been.
So I work for a nonprofit, so that's what I do full time.
Okay.
What we do is we work with men and women who are incarcerated. So it's a reentry program. We try to help them get acclimated into the community again.
Okay.
And then Zack, I'll let him kind of tell you, but with the business that we have going on right now, I also like to do the social media aspect of that. So.
Okay.
yeah. So I would say you could do a whole Bold Moves podcast interview with her and her job. So she's working with people that it's a tough population to work for, but it's really important. And it's, the prison population in Oklahoma, we have the #1 incarceration rate for women. And so it's a really hot topic here. And so she, when she first started that job, I was really nervous that she was working with inmates,
Sure.
what people call them. But gotten to meet some of them and they're just amazing. So that's a sidebar. But so when we started our debt payoff process, I worked at a nonprofit here locally. But I've since transferred into doing my own thing and trying to, put all creative energy and all my focus on starting this personal finance resource for millennials and just generally in people to educate people, so that we run a blog and a website, and we're working on we have a lot of free resources. It's like a big part of what we want to do is just provide value for free, exactly what you're doing with the podcast. And so we want to inspire people, and we're working on a paid course that we've kind of distilled a lot of our knowledge into one course. And so that's a dream. We're working on that. But so I do this full time, and then I help do some marketing on the side for small businesses.
Okay, that's awesome. So living in the camper then, where do you live? Are you in are you still in the camper?
No. So we're in a small apartment in the downtown area. We lived in the apartment for about 11 months and
The camper.
The camper. And it was amazing, both amazing and difficult at times.
Sure.
But it was definitely worth it. We had a lot of crazy experiences happen that probably normally don't happen in other states, like a tornado that happened on the land that we were on. So that was
from the Midwest, so
yay. I guess not yay, because tornadoes are not exciting. They're
yay
horrible.
Midwest, but I at least know what you're talking about with the tornado situation.
So we had some crazy experiences happen, and the shower is like not really a shower. It was a tiny little area that you could barely fit in, and you'd have to like turn it on, put water on your hair, turn it off, shampoo, things like that. Sure. But it was definitely worth the sacrifice. And people ask us all the time, like, would you do it again? And we're like, yeah. Both of us at the same time are like, absolutely. Because we learned a lot about simplifying life and the importance of that. Mm-hmm. And also we got another reward from that, not just simplicity, but we're debt free. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So with those types of habits, like lathering your hair with the water off, I'm in California now. We're maybe at the end of the drought, and that's something that they encourage us to do anyway. How many of the habits that you had as a sacrifice while you were living in the camper do you carry forward to now?
That's an awesome question. Yeah, minimizing life it was actually a lot harder than we thought it would be. And we never really had a lot of stuff anyways, because we were newly married and just starting jobs and that kind of thing. So we didn't really have a ton of time to accumulate, a house full of stuff, but we still had to get rid of like half of our belongings. And I think we've kept a lot of the major principles and things that we loved about minimalism, which is just using what you need. And, still to this day, I cannot do plastic cups. Like you go to the store or your favorite taco shop and they give you the cup and the plastic thing. It's got their logo on it.
Yeah.
We used to like have so many of those, but we just do not have them anymore. I recycle them or toss them out, and we have a set amount of glasses that we need for both of us. We don't have like too many.
Yeah.
So I think we keep some of those things, just like the simple lifestyle. We try not to, even though we're debt free, we could probably live in a house or buy a house, but we're really trying to save up and do it the right way, put a lot of money down for a down payment. She still drives her older car. It's just a Toyota Corolla, and I actually don't even have a car because we literally work in the community that we live in, and so we can walk or ride bikes. And so, we've just tried to keep some of the things that we really enjoyed about living simply a part of our lives. And so we still feel kind of cramped in our apartment sometimes, but it's a luxury. And so I used to think the nonprofit I used to work at was a water nonprofit. So we drove water wells overseas. So it took me all around the world to third world countries. And, I was always reminded of the fact that even though we were, having to take 3 or 4 minute showers and, the hot water would run out, at least we had clean water to drink every single day. And it's just like it's the most basic luxury here, but there are so many places around the world that people just don't get that even. And so I think just always keeping the perspective that this may not be the best way to say it, but there's always someone worse off. Or you can think of it as you're just extremely lucky if you're living in the United States, probably listening to this podcast, So those are kind of some of the things that we try to keep perspective of.
That's great. Now, was your camper located in like a mobile home park? Did you park it on the street places? How does that work?
So we were actually really fortunate. Zach's family has land, and so we were able to live on the land there. We were a far enough distance, like we were close to their house, but we had to get our own like electrical line out there. And so we paid them monthly a certain amount, and we were really grateful that we had that land to be able to park that camper on. But
yeah, so it was kind of wooded, and it was a cool. I sent you some pictures. I don't know if those will be kind of in the show notes or what.
Yeah, they'll go in the show notes.
We had a pretty sweet setup in the woods, kind of like enough space to where we had our own thing. So it was cool.
That's cool. Here I'm in Silicon Valley, which is where all the tech companies are. And I don't know what you know about the area here, but a lot of people are priced out of regular living conditions because all of the software engineers come from around the world and get paid crazy amounts by Google and Facebook and LinkedIn and Apple that are all right around here. So that has made rent prices skyrocket. And there's actually a lot of people, like there's one on our street, which is just a regular neighborhood residential street who live in campers or motorhomes on the streets. So I don't know like where they work or what they do, but we'll walk to the grocery store past a mobile home or a camper and just see someone in there ironing, and then
on the valley. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So there are other people who are doing it. I don't know if it's for the same reason as you, but I've seen that. That's what I thought of when I read your story, and that's really cool. So this is a question that I guess you could either answer as a couple or individually. And if you don't know the answer, that's cool too. But I'm really intrigued to hear from two people from the nonprofit space. What do you think your purpose is?
That is a wonderful question.
And saying I don't know is totally fine because I know it evolves and
Yeah.
for some people, that's a big soul searching thing. So
I believe that my purpose, and I know that Zach agrees with this too, but we definitely, we have belief in a higher power. So that's obviously part of our purpose, is to serve the Lord and, show people what it means to do that. But for us, we also want people to feel encouraged by us, to live a positive, healthy, happy life, where others, I don't know, that's infectious, so that other people can receive joy from that as well. So I definitely think that's kind of a general answer, but that's kind of when I wake up in the morning, that's what I try to do. I try to help other people so that I don't know, they can believe in humanity again,
that it's sad that that's so important to have.
Right. Yeah.
Zach?
Oh man, that's a good one.
This isn't a competition.
Not a competition. Dang. Okay. We're kind of competitive. That is one thing that we like to get into. Like,
Yeah.
I'll let you two score it then. It can be a competition if you really want.
I mean, I think along the same lines as what she said, I've always been drawn toward, like, so we're both Christians, but we've always been drawn towards, like, not only just like keeping our faith personal, but trying to embody it not just in our lives, but like our work.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a big part of why we chose nonprofit routes. And, you know, like, you get to work with people and impact their lives, and especially what she's doing. I mean, it's so important, just in our own community. But I think for me, my purpose, I think I'm probably in a new like phase of purpose, because I've gone through different phases, kind of as you said, it changes.
Yeah.
I think my purpose really now is to just try to help people understand money and like simplify it, and to where it's not taboo. And I think for a lot of people, it can really change their lives if they focus on it now. I mean, the population we try to serve, they're all pretty young. And so
Mm-hmm.
it really can change family trees, and for forever. And I just think I'm happy that I get to work in some space that I can positively impact people's lives. And that can be really vague, but, I try to wake up every morning and remind myself, like, yeah, I might sit in front of my computer all day and type and everything else and just kind of live on the web. But I try to remind myself there's a purpose in that too. It's, it's helping people. So
I love that. I have two follow-up questions from that. The first one will go back to like a more recent thing that you said that kind of hit me interestingly, because I've spoken to different people in the financial space and, done my own self-education a little here and there. And one thing that I've never really considered that you said is that it can change family trees. And so I think a lot of times when people, unless you're a new parent or about to be a new parent, or I guess a parent in general, which I don't know what your population is. You said younger people. So putting myself into that category, I don't have children and I'm not approaching that super soon. But
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because I've generally thought of it from my own sort of selfish perspective of like, how is it going to impact my life if I have a better financial situation? But it makes complete sense that, you can be the next Hiltons or somewhere in between where you are and there, or you can do worse and leave your kids with a bunch of your debt and a bad situation. And so that's really interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just for us, I mean, we like kind of like everyone, I think nobody really gets personal finance. And it's like, how do you learn it if you don't have someone that teaches you, like a parent or mentor or something like that? And some people get lucky and they find those people.
Right.
But I mean, I totally just like, I spoke, this just reminds me of a story. I spoke with a mother of 3, and it's after we started our blog and our story was being shared around, and she contacted us and she said, hey, I really want to talk to you about how you guys did that, because I have to make it through the next year. And so I set up a call with her, and she is selling her house, moving into a camper with her 3 kids. She's putting her 2 kids through college.
Wow.
And so, just like, that's a simple story, but I feel like the moves that she was making are going to change her family forever. Her kids are going to go to college and she's paying for it. So they're not going to have debt,
Yeah.
and she's getting out of debt herself by living in a camper. I just think like, that's cool. It inspired me. It's one thing to do it us too, but with kids and being a single mom, and she's way more established. I mean, it was just amazing. So
That is amazing. And that has to feel so rewarding for you to be able to help not just one person, but then her 3 kids. And then if they have families, like it's a big ripple. That has to feel great.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I need to follow up with her and see how she's doing.
Yeah, that would be so interesting to hear. You have to let us know if you find out and we'll post an update.
Yeah, definitely.
So my second question that I want to go back to from what you said about your purpose, Zack, is actually a question for you, Jenna. He mentioned how important the work that you do in your full-time job is. And I'm just curious if it's the intention or goal to ever leave that and both of you be working on the same business full-time, or are you thinking more of sticking with working with the incarcerated population like you are and just helping with social media and wherever you can outside of your 9 to 5, or where do you think you're headed? If you're allowed to say that. I don't know if your boss will watch this and then you're in trouble, but
No. I mean, I think that obviously it'd be the goal to be able to do this full time for both of us so that we could travel more. But I also could see myself doing this still, just because I'm really passionate about the people that I serve and my role there. So I don't know. I mean, I think that it'd be awesome to be able to travel and do it. So if I could travel, do some work like that, and then also help him, the perfect combination.
sure, maybe on a volunteer basis or something part-time eventually. What exactly do you do with that, with your full-time job with the nonprofit? Did it freeze? Can you hear me?
So can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
You need to pause it.
I'll pause it. So what exactly is it that you do, Jenna, with that job you're with the nonprofit?
So I am a site supervisor there. So I'm like the program director over our program for reentry. So I just manage the different grants that we receive for specific individuals. So I have like a group of people that are under my supervision, and I'm able to do like the orientation when all the participants get there. So it's a really cool role, and I've worked really hard to work my way up there. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say that, I mean, yes, it'd be cool to leave and get to do that full time, but it'd be hard because I've worked so hard to make it to this point,
Absolutely. So. Very cool. Well, maybe the part-time volunteering or something can work, or maybe you'll work up so that you can be more flexible in your schedule and still fit in more traveling like you'd like.
Exactly. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So this is another question that could be answered individually or as a couple or both. I'm curious about the scariest thing you've ever done.
The scariest thing I've ever done, actually, so my previous job, I got to travel, I mentioned a lot, and I was in Zambia and I jumped off and bungee jumped off of, I think it's the second highest bridge bungee jump in the world.
Oh, cool.
If anyone wants to fact check that, I'm not standing by it, but it's one of the largest ones. And so when I came home from that trip, I was visiting with my grandparents, and my grandpa was like, "So what do you guys do in Africa?" And I was like, "Well, we went bungee jumping." He said, "So you're telling me you went to Africa, stood off a bridge and had somebody strap you up, and then you jumped off a bridge?" It's like, yeah, that is pretty scary. But that was It was terrifying, but it was also amazing.
But it was at Victoria Falls, and recently Will Smith did the same bungee jump that he did.
Ah,
Yeah.
very
So,
cool. You're in good company.
yeah.
Or
There's
he's in
also-
good company.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There was actually a lady not too long ago that the bungee broke and she went in the same place
Oh no.
and she went in the water. It's a nice place, but it's still
Scary.
a little it's a third world country. So
Right.
you're not you don't have the same luxury.
Certifications and
Yeah. So
fair.
I would say the scariest thing I've probably ever done was I lived in India for a summer.
Okay.
And so that was just like the whole process leading up to it. I had no idea what I was doing and what India was like. I mean, I had researched stuff, but I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. So I would say it was scary for me just in taking that risk, but best thing I've ever done for sure.
Very cool.
Other than marrying him and, doing the camper thing, all that.
The obvious things.
I was gonna say.
And then you get in
stories.
trouble on the podcast interview.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are probably a lot of people in relationships or thinking about past relationships who would find moving into a small space with their significant other pretty terrifying, but I like that didn't come up on your list. You're like, no, that wasn't a big deal.
There were some terrifying parts of that. I mean, there really were. We laugh about how much we changed during that. I mean, I think we didn't date long before we got married, before we got engaged. So we dated for a few months, like five months we got engaged, and then we were married 6 months after that.
Wow. 5 months after that. It was 10 months total.
So we were very, I don't know, we were just ready to go with it. And, but that meant we didn't have a ton of time to get to know each other, We were just committed to getting to know each other at that point after we got married, is what we said now. And so, but anyways, I think we learned a lot about each other and we really grew. I mean, everyone needs alone time, and especially people that are more introverted, you need your own room at least to go into, and we didn't even have that. So we had to really we
still have never had that. Like, we've never had a separate room. Everywhere we've lived, we can't leave each other.
It's like we just had more open floor plans type places that we like, and the camper was the most small, it's tiny. 10 steps away is the farthest you could get away if you need your own space.
Yeah. Did you do like a sock on the door type, like one of you comes home, the other one's not ready for another human, you have to go have dinner somewhere else?
We had a patio, so he would sit in the patio or sit on the patio, and
it was different. I mean, since it was more rural out there, you could do things outside. Yeah. And when you live in the city like we do now, like we live in a concrete jungle, like a huge apartment complex, and there's like little dog parks and stuff, but even still here, you have to go drive somewhere to go be in nature. I worked outside a lot during the nice months and just grilled out and just spent time outside, which was really nice. Mm-hmm. So there was pros and cons and things that we really enjoyed about it, but there was also the challenges.
I'm sure. Maybe a book someday.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we would have documented it better, but they're all still pretty fresh memories. So.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So when you're looking fear in the eye, and both of your different circumstances, your scariest things, both together and separately, what would you tell somebody as to how to push past the fear and do whatever they're set out to do anyway?
That's a really, really good one. You have such great questions. Okay. Probably just say to remember to stay grounded, because fear can push us away from doing things that are the best experiences we could ever have in life. And so I think that I would probably tell them, fear is good. Then that probably means that you should look into it more and see if this could really be a life-changing moment or experience. I would just say, do not just run away from fear,
Yeah, I like that. Grounded is probably not what you want to be when jumping off a bridge. So do
Right.
you have a different piece of advice, Zach?
Yeah, my advice, funnily enough, I love that, and it's so good.
Oh yeah, I wasn't at all naysaying it. I just thought it was
Yeah.
funny in context. I agree that it's great advice.
I love that advice, but I'm sort of the exact opposite type of personality, if you can't tell yet. Um, I I think very similarly, like fear is a good indicator of whether or not you're going to challenge yourself. Sometimes it's different, There's
Mhm.
good reasons to be fearful of certain situations, but when it comes to like goals and doing things that are going to change your life, or you know, I don't know, literally taking bold moves. I mean, I think those are generally things that people have dreams of doing, but it's the fear holding them back. So I just say go for it. Just jump first and fear later.
All right.
So that's always served me well, and usually the scariest things I've ever done are always the best things. I mean, they turn out to be so amazing, and so that motto, jump first, fear later, has kind of been something that I've lived by, and I'm still here. So I think that's kind of what I would say.
I like that. Yeah. You seem to be doing great.
Yeah,
Seems to be working.
yeah.
Speaking of advice, do you have any other advice of anything that you would like to share with the audience? It could be some finance tips, life tips, relationship tips, how to live in a small space with each other, whatever you think is something you learned that was powerful that you'd like to share.
Something that I learned was to not be completely overwhelmed off the bat with like budgeting, and just to look at each of your expenses and say, okay, what could I spend less money on? Do I need to have a Hulu subscription? Do I need to, I mean, it could be something simple like commercials on Hulu versus no commercials on Hulu. It's every little dollar, like making sure that you look and see, is there a cheaper option to this? Researching insurance companies, seeing if there's another way to go. When you're paying off debt, those little sacrifices really, really help you in the long run. I mean, it's how we were able to do what we did too. So
Very cool.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, practically speaking, I think that's great advice, but I would just try to maybe inspire people that are listening that aren't where they want to be, whether it's with their finances or their life or their relationships. I think there's a lot of things, especially with money and relationships and just our own life. They're very similar in the challenges that come up, and a lot of them are mindset. And so one of the biggest things that I've tried to do is just to be continually inspired by people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means, listening to podcasts like this, seeking out other people that have similar goals to you, and just putting yourself in the right frame of mind, because the world has this way of telling you everything that's wrong with you. And it just seems like there's a lot of negativity, but you really have to find a way to stay inspired and motivated, because motivation is always like fleeting.
Right.
Not many people wake up every single day motivated to chase their dreams. Like, a lot of people get there, but it's still hard work. It's still, you have to do the grind.
Mm-hmm.
So a big part of that is your environment, and just trying to find ways to stay inspired. And I think for money especially, we had some mentors, and we had people that were doing the same thing that we were doing, but they were just a little bit ahead of us.
Right.
And then when they became debt free, they moved overseas. They're working awesome overseas jobs, I mean, and so they really inspired us. And so now I think that's important for people, just to try to stay inspired and find role models.
I love that. And I think to kind of piggyback off of that piece of advice is that you mentioned the people that you used as mentors were just a couple steps ahead of you. And I think going the other way and kind of to inspire you in the venture you're making with all of your free resources and the course that you're creating is that you only need to be a couple steps ahead of somebody else to inspire and help them. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not really an expert, or I don't know much more than the average person. It's like, well, you only need to know one more thing to help the person that's right behind you.
Yeah.
So I think
That
that's
is so
awesome.
true. That is so true. Yep. Very true.
So with inspiration, or it could be education or even entertainment, since we're talking about different advice, I'm curious what books either or both of you would have to recommend to anybody that you've loved reading.
I have a couple different genres.
Perfect. I like variety.
Yeah, one is I'm reading it right now. Actually, it's called Just Mercy.
Okay.
It's by Brian Stevenson, and he is a death row lawyer. So
Wow.
he talks about helping people that maybe were wrongly convicted or just in a horrible situation when they were like 13 to 16. It's really, really good. It's really hard to read, but it's also really needed for people to understand and not be ignorant to the fact that those kind of things affect someone's life forever. And
Right.
even if they're able to get off of death row, they face horrible things for the rest of their life. So that's sad, but it's really good. It's a really good read. And then I love Glennon Doyle Melton. She has a couple of different books. Love Warrior is really great. That's one of her more recent ones.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really fun to read because you get to hear her story and how successful she is now and all the things that she went through and the journey that it takes to get there. And then I also like comedy books, and so I love Mindy Kaling.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she has a couple of funny, just like kind of dorky books, but I love them because they make me laugh and they keep me happy. So
Yeah, I was going to say how you mentioned that sometimes we just need a reminder that humanity is still okay. Sometimes you just need
yeah,
an afternoon to laugh and not worry about
exactly.
how people's decisions impacted them when they were 13 and they're now on death row,
I
or
know, I know.
you
So
have a
I
nice
read
balance.
that. Exactly.
I was like, wow, you're starting out with that one. Interesting. But I think that's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I would say the most recent book I read we went on vacation recently, and it was The War of Art
Okay.
by Stephen Pressfield. And it was one of those books that I had always heard recommended, and then I just had seen it recommended several times in a row. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is God, the universe telling me I need to read this book, because it's all about taking, and I think this is applicable even if you're not an artist, but you're just someone who has a dream. He talks a lot about overcoming the resistance that you have when you're pursuing something important. And that's pretty much fear in a lot of people's minds. And so I think that goes nicely with what you were talking about. And so it's a good book, and it's a very easy read. And I don't know, the second one, we have a lot of books up here where the second one I would probably just say The Power of Habit. I really like that book. It's written by these really smart researchers, but they make it fun to read. And I'm just really fascinated with habits and routines and how to, like, I don't know, hack life and to get the most out of myself and my own life, to live to my fullest potential. And so I think habits are really important. And so I'd say that's a book. While it's not like super fun to read, like the funny ones that she's mentioning, I like the utility I can get out of books, and
Sure.
so I want to try and learn something. So that's kind of my approach with reading. But those two books are pretty good.
Awesome. Well, I think we covered a pretty wide gamut of genres and something for everyone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say about The War of Art, because you're not the first guest to recommend it. And I've kind of, like you said, heard about it many times, and maybe this will finally be my nudge to really read it.
Yeah. There's if we can throw a quick life hack into the book and reading thing, because I used to buy so many books on Amazon Prime, because Amazon's so smart. They recommend, here, you bought this book, you would like these 7 books. And you're like, yeah, I would. And so, I would always be ordering these books, and we were on the journey of becoming debt free. I realized, man, I looked at my yearly Amazon bill, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
But it's always justifiable because they're books.
You're investing
so
in yourself.
It's an investment, but it really turned out we had nowhere to put the books, and we were just packing them in boxes, and boxes of books really suck to move.
They're heavy. Yeah.
So, and so I'm not buying any more books. So we rediscovered the amazing resource of the public library. And you can go to the library. If you live in a city with a public library, you can go there and get books free. And to me, that is, we rent books all the time now, and it's sort of old school, but man, I've read more books now, I think, than ever. You have to take them back. But
I was going to say, I can see 2 overdue library books, which is not a good act.
It is a little bit different challenge. Yeah. So you got to take them back. But, if you don't, they charge you like 6 cents a day or whatever. I don't know. But I'm guilty of keeping books forever. So. Anyways.
That's a great tip. And I know that like my in-laws rent tons of movies from the library too. So also free to get your DVD or Blu-ray or even audio disc for free. So that's a great tip. Great reminder. That'll challenge me to return my 2 overdue books.
Yeah.
So my final question is one that's always been my favorite to ask, even at parties before I had a podcast. And of course, once again, this I don't think you could answer as a couple, especially since you haven't been together for too long. Although I guess married in 2014, by now you've got some years under your belt. But if Zack and Jenna at age 8 could look in a crystal ball and see Zack and Jenna today, I guess individually, although you'd see each other together for the last several years, sometimes in very small spaces. On a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would you be to be where you are? And as I just said that, I'm like, I feel like this is a great way to start a fight. So one of you is like, well, a 4. So I guess I'm sorry if I put you in an awkward situation.
No, not at all. I would honestly say, I think that I'd say either a 9 or a 10.
Okay.
Mainly because the work that I do, I feel really fulfilled in that. What I've been able to do there and how I've been able to grow. I think also that I'm super happy that I'm married.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted that, and I'm just super happy that I found Zack. And we really complement each other well. We have a wonderful marriage, and obviously we've had our years and difficulties of arguing and fighting and all that, but I think that I'm really grateful that I have a life partner. And then I think the reason why it's not 11 is because I still have some things that I would really, really like to do. I am from Idaho, so I'm from the Northwest. I love the Northwest. I don't know who wouldn't love the Northwest. And so Zack and I really, really want to do some traveling. And one of our goals that we've talked about for some time is to take like a non-pastor sabbatical, like we're going to call it a sabbatical, and take some time to go travel and like go to the Northwest, go see Oregon, Idaho, Washington, all those beautiful, beautiful places, and get to experience those things together. So
very cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing question, by the way. If my 8-year-old self was looking at life as it is today, I think he'd be pretty excited. I mean, the last year we've had a lot of challenges, but I think equally just taking leaps and doing like hard things and deciding to do things a little bit differently than some people would. He'd be like, that's pretty cool. And I think he'd be surprised. So I'd say a 10, because with you, I mean, life is always good if you wake up every day, you're blessed. Yeah. We live in America. We have so many amazing things to be thankful for. But I'll say I'm a dreamer. And so I'm always like, I want to do that next, or I want to do this next. And so I think there's still a lot to do, and so, but I'd be pretty excited at 8 years old, like looking forward in time until now.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Now, I already said that that was going to be my last question, and that is probably the lie that I tell most frequently because I generally either have a follow-up question or forget to have asked something important. This will go in the show notes, so anybody who's watching online from the video or clicked over to the blog will already have seen it. But in case somebody is driving and isn't going to access the show notes, how do people find you guys and all of your free resources on social media or your website? How do people who are more interested get more information?
Yeah, so we are, we have a website. It's yourmoneyyourfreedom.com. So, I won't spell that out, but it's spelled how it sounds. And, we're on Twitter. It's just my personal account. It's at Zachary Lee, ZACKARYLEE. And then if you just look up Free Up on Facebook, which is Free Up is like our business name.
Okay.
And so you can look us up on Facebook. Really, I think the main things we would like to share with people, I recently created a biased, pretty cool budget spreadsheet. And I really had no idea that so many people were interested in budget spreadsheets. I think I always saw that some people like spreadsheets and others don't, but we had an overwhelming response of people that reached out after I created it that wanted it. And so we're just giving it away. And you can find that on our website. Or if anyone wants it, you can Twitter me. I'll send it to you. But it's a cool resource. We have a lot of other stuff that we're working on. A couple guides. We're always trying to publish like valuable information. So through blog posts and other things. So yeah, the website is probably the best way to connect with us. So check it out. It's just yourmoneyyourfreedom.com.
Awesome. Now, anyone who listens to my podcast frequently, of course, already knows, like I said, that I lie when I say this is my last question. And then second of all, knows that I tend to ask questions for my own benefit and take my position as host, take advantage of it. So I'm curious, because as I've mentioned, I have never been really into personal finance, and I know that I should be. And one of the things that has turned me off of it for the past 7 years, I would say, is that I am a full-time freelancer. So I don't necessarily, and I know you said you do consulting projects for other people, I don't necessarily have a set income every month. So that has made me use that as a number one excuse why I can't budget, because I don't really know exactly what's going to be coming in. What advice would you tell me to use your spreadsheet, or to stop making excuses, or how to handle it in general?
Yeah, that's so good. A lot of people deal with that,
Yeah, it's definitely the gig-based economy is growing quickly. So,
I mean, most of my family runs their own business, and they're always like, I don't make the same every month. And I'm like, okay. I think some of the same principles hold true. So what I would do first is take out a piece of paper or a spreadsheet if you're a spreadsheet person, and literally write down all of your expenses.
Okay.
Everything, especially the recurring ones, so if it's $10 a month for Audible or Hulu, Netflix, cable, everything. And this might take some time, and you might even have to look back, so if you drive a lot, or, just look back at your past month and just see how much you spent, say, for gas, fuel, and eating out, those kinds of things. Try to come up with a ballpark number that you think is accurate. It's always better to overestimate than underestimate. Sure. And, just literally populate all your expenses first. Add those up. Most people make at least that a month,
Hopefully.
Otherwise, you can't do that long. You can't be in business long if you're not meeting those minimum expenses. So once you have those, then do the exact same thing with your income. Write down, what did you make for the last 3 months? Can you average that? Do you see any trends? Then I would just say, okay, based on general numbers, you don't have to figure it out exactly. If there's huge swings, it's going to be different. But just decide, what are your goals? If it's to become debt free, then if you make a certain amount over, X amount of dollars, you're going to put that additional money towards your debt. Instead of going out and spending for new shoes, or some new iPhone or something like that. So
Right.
trying to find the baseline of, and if you want to be aggressive with it, you literally try and minimize all the expenses that you can. So get rid of Netflix, get rid of Hulu, get rid of Audible, don't buy books on Amazon. And then really when you get down to the bare bones of it, you're still going to have to buy food and rent, electricity, those things. You're not going to be able to really get rid of those in most cases.
Right.
But I would say the first step is just finding out what your expenses are and then looking how much you have left over. And then deciding on your goal, what you want to accomplish with your leftover money. I know I already pitched this, but the spreadsheet we made, it'll kind of do all that for you. And so it'll give you some ideal savings numbers. And anybody that's listening, you can go out and look up the 50, 30, 20 budgeting rule. And that just gives you an idea of how much you should be spending on your expenses, your just living expenses like rent or mortgage and food, those necessities, and then things that you spend on like shoes. And then it tells you the last 20% of what you earn should be spent on saving or investing. So it's just a model to think through. So
Awesome.
it's kind of long-winded, but
it's interesting because even though it was a little long-winded, I appreciated the details and like really laying it out step by step. But it also like basically was stop making excuses. You really just need to do it. Because what you said is pretty much mostly common sense until you got to the end with like how exactly to manage whatever extra there might be. And the guideline that you mentioned with the 50, 30, 20, which is a great tip too. So yeah, perhaps this is motivating me. Maybe I'll download your spreadsheet and get my rear in gear.
Awesome. Yeah, do it. Well, we're going to hold you accountable. So
yeah, tweet at me in a little while. Just be like, so how's that spreadsheet?
How's your budget going, Mandy?
Exactly. Feel free to ask me. I give you permission to hold it. Listeners too, the more people I have on my butt, the more likely I am to do it. So.
All right. It's a deal then.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you for all the value you added to listeners. And then of course, I obviously just got like a mini personal consultation. So I appreciate that too.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you.
Really cool.
That has been awesome.
Not sure what you're thinking, but I'm definitely trying to rack my brain for places that I may be spending more money than I need to be, and I'm sure that there are many. I also know that I will take their advice and do their spreadsheet. I should be better at my money, and being a freelancer with unsteady income is definitely an excuse, and it's an excuse that I'm not going to give anymore, so make sure you hold me accountable. Since I am telling you what to do, make sure you head to the show notes, which is at www.mandiem.com/episode97, where you can check out the links to their social media pages and their resources so that you can benefit from all their hard work and the value and content that they are giving away absolutely free. And I'm still telling you what to do a little bit more. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss Friday's challenge from Zack and Jen and any of the other interviews that I have coming up. Make sure you share this to anyone who you think might be inspired by their story or like the information that they're giving. And also, of course, I would love to hear some reviews or read some reviews on iTunes. So if you have an opinion, please share it with me there so I can see what you are thinking about this. Additionally, if you or someone you know has made bold moves, please head to www.mandiem.com/guest, GUEST, and fill out the form so that I have all of your information and can get in touch with you about potentially having you as the next guest on our show. All right, that about covers it for today. I hope you do all of the things that I ask you to do because it only benefits you, well, also my mission too of helping as many people as I can step outside of their comfort zones and closer to their dream lives. But anyway, as always, be bold, have a sparkly day, and we'll see you Friday. Bye-bye.